Have you ever launched an ad campaign that should have printed money? You had the budget, the targeting, the offer, yet after weeks of testing, it's still flatlined. Meanwhile, you watch competitors run the same creative for months, sometimes years, generating millions, while you're stuck refreshing your ad manager, hoping for a miracle. Well, there's a psychological explanation for why this happens and a method actually to fix it. Behind the world's most successful evergreen campaigns, the ones that run for years without burning out, stand three pillars that most marketers completely ignore. No flashy effects, no trendy transitions, not your signature style. Mass audiences don't care about any of that. They care about story. Whether your ad makes them feel something, they care about style, whether it speaks to them directly, and they care about results, whether it actually moves the needle for them. My name is Raul Plickert. I'm the founder of Marketing MBA. Together with my team, we've generated over $1 billion in revenue for personal brands and companies, building campaigns that don't just convert once, but keep converting for years. And what I'm about to show you now is the exact method we used to create a campaign that generated 8-figure growth, 3.6 million of views, 10,000 of reactions, and which basically became the blueprint for evergreen ads that tell stories correctly. I'm also taking you for the first time behind the scenes, from the ideation part to the actual filming of that, and there's absolutely no gatekeeping here. In the end, it all comes down to three pillars. We call it SSR. First, there's story, the psychological architecture that bypasses resistance and makes viewers feel before they think. Second, there's style, editing and presentation calibrated to a specific audience, not generic best practices. And third, the only metric that actually matters is revenue and leads generated. These are the three pillars that power every campaign we build. I'll break down each one using a real case study in a moment. But first, what makes an ad truly evergreen? Most ads burn out because they rely on novelty. A pattern interrupt, a curiosity hook, a trending sound, something that grabs attention because it's new. The problem: new becomes very fast, very old. The algorithm shows your ad to the same audience repeatedly. The hook that worked on day 1 becomes invisible by day 30. Your CPM spikes, your ROAS tanks, you're back to the drawing board. This is the ad fatigue death spiral. And this is why most campaigns have a shelf life of weeks, not years. The KFC method solves this. KFC stands for key first click. If you watched this channel before, there's another video that is somewhere linked here where I explained the exact method. It's the campaign architecture we developed after studying why some ads generate millions for years while others die in days. And here's what we discovered. Ads that die operate on the surface. They grab a trend, they grab attention through novelty, something unexpected, something loud, something different. But novelty is external. It depends on the viewer not having it seen before. Once they've seen it, it's dead. Ads that live operate on depth. They don't grab attention. They activate identity. They don't show a product, they show the viewer who they could become. This never gets old because it's not about the ad, it's about the viewer. It's about the identity the viewer wants to achieve. The psychological principle that makes evergreen possible is basically based on Maxwell Maltz. In psychocybernetics, he proved that humans cannot outperform their self-image. What is your self-image? Your self-image is the mental picture you hold of who you are. Every decision you make, every action you take is filtered through this image. You will always act in accordance with who you believe yourself to be. In the end, this is why most ads fail. Most ads try to convince you to buy something. They present features, benefits, social proof, and urgency. And it's all good. But if the product doesn't fit your self-image, if you can't see yourself as a person who owns the thing, uses this service, lives this lifestyle, no amount of convincing will eventually work. Your brain will reject it, not consciously, automatically. Evergreen ads don't convince. They transform the self-image. And this is especially needed for high-ticket services because they become more effective with more frequency, which is the total opposite to e-com ads, where ad fatigue is real. For evergreen high-ticket ads, this is not the case. They show the viewer a version of themselves they haven't met yet, a future self, a possible self, and they make that self feel real, achievable, and desirable. Once the viewer sees themselves differently, the purchase becomes inevitable. Not because you convinced them, because they convinced themselves. And this is the most critical detail here. This is why evergreen ads don't fatigue. Novelty wears off, but identity activation doesn't. Every time the viewer sees the ad, they see the future self again. The message doesn't get old, it gets reinforced. The KFC method is a strategic framework. SSR is the execution layer. The first impression must activate identity, not just capture attention. You have one moment, the first click, the first 3 seconds actually, to show the viewer who they could become. Not directly, but you should at least hook them. Miss this and nothing else matters. Nail this and the ad can run forever. Let's talk about story, the psychological architecture that makes identity activation possible. Not storytelling in the generic sense, specific narrative structures that bypass the conscious filter and speak directly to the self-image. This is where Heidegger, Jung, Adler, Nietzsche, and Frankl become relevant, not just as philosophy, but as technology. Psychological tools that have been moving humans for centuries, now applied to market. When it comes to style, the visual and auditory language calibrated to a specific audience is important. Not trends, not best practices, the exact aesthetic, pacing, and tone your audience recognizes as for them. Here we come to copywriting in filmmaking. Style is also identity signaling. When the style matches, the viewer's brain says, this is for people like me. When it doesn't, they scroll. We don't think it, we feel it. And lastly, when it comes to results, revenue and leads generated. Period. Everything else is just vanity. The only question that matters is, did it move the needle in the end? This is the performance layer when it comes to applying in the end the movie on Facebook, on Meta, on YouTube, because it's not enough to just film it. And this part is handled in the KFC video. Now let me show you exactly how we applied this. Last year we worked with Jürgen Höller. He's kind of like the Tony Robbins of Germany. A personal brand with a big history. He's been on the market for more than 30 years, but he faced a problem. His demographic was aging, but in the back end he was evolving. His brand image to the front didn't evolve. It was the same for the last 12 years. He has great products, a lot of great products actually. But in the front end, what he was communicating, it wasn't visible. So the challenge was create a rebrand campaign that wouldn't just launch and die. It needed to run long term, generate millions in revenue, and reposition a third-year brand for a new generation. We applied the KFC method with full SSR execution. The result was 2 ads, millions of views, and 8-figure revenue growth. The ads are still running, and what we delivered was a psychological intervention disguised as a brand video. And now, here's the architecture behind it. Have fun with it. So let's start with the beginning. In order to make a successful rebrand, we had to research what creates resonance in his audience. What are the current trends? Who is the brand? And how do we combine that with a message that creates identity activation, not just attention? We made the strategic decision to launch not with 1 video, but with 2 seemingly disconnected videos. Why? Because the KFC method requires more than 1 touch. The first click activates, the second click transforms. Video 1 was pre-launch. We decided on video 1 that it was pure entertainment. What I discovered about Jürgen was that he has a great sense of humor. He has a lot of charisma, and when you meet him in person, you feel like you know him like forever. But on the outside, he never threw a single joke in no video at all. Maybe there was, but I couldn't find it. So I wanted that people see this, especially his audience. On the other hand, in his market, everyone takes himself so seriously and important all the time. So let's make fun of himself. And he was fine with it. Thank you, Jürgen, for the trust. It worked. And he actually convinced me to take the role in the director's seat while we were filming. This video did something critical. It disarmed the audience. It showed humanity. It signaled this is not going to be what you expect. Counter positioning. Video 2 was the actual launch video, the psychological intervention. There's a grave, a clown, the architecture I'm about to break down. The entertainment video lowered defenses. It created goodwill, built curiosity. Then the serious video arrived and penetrated where it otherwise couldn't. Now, the meaning of the second video is much deeper, and if I wouldn't make this video, most people probably would have never seen these things in the video. That's totally fine, because in the end, it works also on the subconscious. Whether you understand it or not, you feel it, as long as you're part of the audience. This is SSR in action. A story, a transformation, narrative encoded in symbols, timelines, and psychological triggers. The style is cinematic, calibrated exactly to Höller's evolved audience. Not the aging demographic, but the next generation of entrepreneurs who want depth, not hype. Now, let me show you how we built each element. You've seen brand videos and launches before. In the first place, I looked at his social media channels and looked for videos that got extraordinary resonance. One thing always stood out over the last couple of years. Jürgen always delivered direct videos about political situation. He called them klartext, in English plain text videos, where he talked unfiltered about political situation. He did it 6 years ago when COVID started and got massive resonance. And over the years, he always repeated that. That was something that got a lot of attention. And on the other hand, it's a clear sign that people see his opinions and his perspective on things as valid. So that was the first thing I knew I wanted to include. Now the second thing was how to take this point of view and put it into a fitting situation, because this launch was basically the beginning of his rebrand. So the next thing I was looking at was his rebrand itself. What is he doing as a personality? What is he going through as an entrepreneur, as a leader of a company with a lot of employees? And the third thing was the current political situation in Germany. The last thing I looked at and wanted to integrate was a tribute to the former Chancellor of Germany, Helmut Schmidt. Most people in Germany see him as one of the best leaders in the post-war German era. He was known to always speak directly as well, same as Jürgen, and I was thinking, okay, the current situation, how would he comment on that? He would probably critique it. So I spent a lot of time watching old videos of him and analyzing the words he chose, the way he built sentences, and how he saw the world. One thing that stood out right at that time, there were a couple of knife attacks in Germany, and the political situation was going downhill. That was fitting into this aspect. On the other hand, in order to change things, we have to take responsibility. That is the call to action to the entrepreneur, to his target audience. And he by himself is also doing things differently and going in new directions, new ways of thinking, new ways of expression, a new logo, a new branding, a new communication, new focus on leaving the old behind. That's progress, that's evolution. And that's the philosophic part, the meaning behind it. And in this part especially, I finally found something that I wanted to do for a long, long time. There was also something that was important to me and wanted to communicate this through Jürgen in parallel. For me, that was a great opportunity to combine the lessons of Carl Jung, Nietzsche, Sigmund Freud, Alfred Adler, but also Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor. Because the common denominator here is that in order to evolve as a brand, you have to evolve as a person. And in order to change something in your country as well, you have to start taking responsibility. Responsibility in your actions. You cannot just complain. You have to look inward as a country, as a company, as a leader, if you want to change something. And you have to recognize what is real and what is illusion based on false principles, based on wishful thinking. So the core message here, as you see, is something that fits in this situation, and every individual as well. It combines it on both levels in parallel. Jürgen himself and also the people he's speaking to. Now, here we come to my own Christopher Nolan moment. It's not a mystery that I personally think that Christopher Nolan is one of the best filmmakers currently alive when it comes to creating movies with meaning and intellectual complexity. So I asked myself, how would Christopher Nolan make a movie like this, a trailer like this? Christopher is working with timelines, so I decided as well to work with timelines. You've experienced time as linear. One thing follows another, past, present, future. It's all a straight line. But also transformation doesn't work that way. It spirals, it layers, it happens at once, and then you realize it happens in parallel. I came up with 3 different timelines that all portray Jürgen happening in parallel while we show them sequentially in the movie. So the first timeline is the inner place. It's the dark place, the shadow, where you confront actually the shadow. It's basically your current success. It's a part in your brain that keeps you in your comfort zone. The current success, the current build-up, you've worked hard and you arrived at that. You have to face the current reality in order to break out of that. This timeline represents the past, what was once. The second timeline is basically taking action, writing a letter and going on the journey, moving, taking action while also facing the current reality, in this case Germany, and breaking with illusions. This timeline is the present. It starts at the grave. At the beginning, we see the end, what is to come, but it's the present. The third timeline is a reinvention of the entrepreneur himself. He has decades of experience, but he has to try something completely new, something unknown. You see basically how his company transforms. He removes the old logo, the new one gets applied. He hires new people, implements new technologies. This timeline represents the future, the potential of what could be. The higher goal defined by psychologist Alfred Adler that pulls you in this direction. But in order to arrive there, you have to start to act. Watch the film once, you see a man write a letter. He drives through a forest, he delivers the letter to a grave. A company changes its logo, simple. Watch it again, maybe you will see something else. The image stays with you longer than they should. The music loops in your mind, you feel something you can't name. That's not accident, that's architecture. Every element, the location, the timing, the music, even the scenes that seems unrelated, they carry weight, psychological weight. The kind that bypasses your conscious filters and lands somewhere deeper. The film contains 3 timelines, a looping soundtrack, a monologue written in someone else's voice, and a clown. We will get to the clown. Now let's jump behind the scenes. The film opens with flowers being placed on an unnamed grave. Silence except for the soundtrack, which begins with the sound of a shovel, but played by a cello. Death made beautiful. That's the first symbol. You don't know whose grave. Your brain wants to know, it leans forward. This is intentional, an open loop. Only at the end do you learn it's Helmut Schmidt. Why him? Schmidt was German leadership. Distilled, pragmatic, direct, uncompromising. The kind of man who said klartext, in English plain speech, and actually meant it. The philosopher Martin Heidegger argued that authentic existence requires confronting your own mortality. Most people live in what he called das Mann, the they, where death is abstract, something that happens to others. By beginning at the grave, the entire monologue is delivered from beyond death. It's posthumous advice from the future. Your brain processes this before you consciously understand it. The feeling arrives first. The meaning follows later. The person you are now is already buried. The question is what rises from this grave. And Höller, by delivering the letter, positioned himself as the messenger between eras, acknowledging the past while stepping beyond it. That's the message, not spoken, but shown. We start the scene with the letter. My dear friend, that's the voiceover. And that's also the first few words we see in the close-up being written on the letter. To make it clear that what we hear as the voiceover is actually the letter being written. With the dark room, we are confronting the shadow, as described by Carl Jung. In this case, if you're successful, your shadow is actually also your past success, the self-image you have of yourself. That's why he's sitting in a suit, smoking a cigar in his library. Here are all the books I've read in my life. The knowledge applied brought me here, to my current success. But it's old and it's dark. It's not bright because I know my old success. The image I have of myself presents me from growing and evolving as a human. So I have to face my shadow. Stop smoking the cigar. Expensive suit, cigar smoke curling in low light, an old television glowing in the corner. On the screen, now a clown. This looks like success. The library, the tailored clothes, the confidence of a man who has arrived. But if you look closer, he is in darkness. He's watching, not acting. This is the prison that looks like freedom. Comfortable, successful, stuck. A plateau. Viktor Frankl, who survived Auschwitz, described the modern condition in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. His quote, the existential vacuum manifests itself mainly in a state of boredom. People have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. The villa, an old television for entertainment, entertaining actually the same thoughts that brought you here. This is the existential vacuum made visual. Having everything, but meaning? What does it mean if you don't get challenged? The boredom births the inner critic, the clown. Now we get to what doesn't fit. Cognitive dissonance. In the villa scene there's a television. On the screen a clown. He speaks. The clown looks scary. The clown scene seems disconnected from everything else we saw previously. A man writing a letter to a dead chancellor. And there's the clown. And that's exactly why it matters. Why? Because in film language this is called a rupture. An element that doesn't belong. Your conscious mind dismisses it. Too strange, doesn't connect, but your unconscious absorbs it completely. The clown speaks. He says, I'm not a puppeteer. I try to show the true puppeteer how pathetic their attempts are to control things. In Jungian psychology, the clown is the trickster, the energy that breaks through false order. The fool who tells truth to power, the one who disrupts what has calcified. Historically, the court fool was the only one who would tell the king the truth. The knife is the potential. It's not violence, potential. The thread of what could be cut, what could be severed, what could be revealed. But he holds it. He doesn't use it. He shows. And Jürgen is sitting there, seeing on this old TV the fool, the trickster, speaking the uncomfortable truths, bringing the chaos and the entropy needed to create new beginnings. Blasting out the last smoke of old comfort and enjoyment before facing reality.
Ja, was willst du denn ausdrücken damit? Also welche Szene ist mit solchen Annahmen?
In allen. Also hier.
Das. Weiß.
Das.
Ist es hier nicht ein bisschen düster hier drin? Also so von der, soll die Stimmung düster hier drin sein?
Das drehen wir gleich. Jetzt wegfahren drehe ich auch.
Ja.
Guck mal, ich drehe Makro, ne? Man sieht gar nicht, was er schreibt.
Okay.
Wir haben auch schönen Füller.
Ich weiß, okay, Gott.
Genau, und ich drehe, also es wirklich, das Bild wird so sein.
Ja,
so.
Cool.
Also wirklich sehr, sehr filigran. Guck mal, ich habe das geholt, so ein bisschen Requisite.
Sehr geil. Das Geile ist, mit Leuten zu arbeiten, ne, die genau wissen, was man im Kopf hat.
Guck mal, das ist Schreibtisch, was ich geholt habe. Weißt du, wenn er da drauf schreibt, das
Also nicht was ich sage, sage ich ja hier, sondern wie ich sage.
Nee, traurig nicht. Sollte aber zielgerichtet, klar, bestimmt.
Mein lieber Freund, lass uns Klartext reden. Es gibt zwei Arten von Menschen. Jene, die in die Zukunft führen und jene, die an vergangener Macht klammern. Den draußen auf dem Felde.
Das ist zu hell, das musst du ein bisschen dunkler machen. Wo stehst du? Dieses Lachen rausnehmen. Und das Du mehr betonen. Also, wo stehst du? Du, Pause, bist genau dort, wo du es verdient hast. Du hast so gesagt, du bist genau dort, wo du es verdient hast. Du bist genau dort, wo du es verdient hast. Verstehst du, was ich meine?
Mhm.
Ja. Ich habe mir jetzt geil ausgeleuchtet auf jeden Fall. Wie macht ihr das gleich mit dem Gesicht? Das Gesicht?
Ja, das wird
okay.
ausgehen und wir geben noch ein bisschen Backlight. Kannst du ganz kurz nur zeigen? Kannst du mit deinem iPad ausmachen?
Für die Szene ist das gut. Ich möchte halt nicht nur eine Szene haben.
Nee, das ja.
Also, sondern auch seitlich ausgedunkelt.
Feuerzeug, klassisch oder?
Nee, schon das hier. Sieht super aus. Das sieht echt gut aus.
Man soll auch vom Gesicht gar nichts sehen, ne?
Ja.
Korrekt.
Gut, dass ich noch welche mitgebracht habe.
ADHS.
So, reicht das?
Alles muss man selber machen.
Aber ich habe alle Takes aufgenommen. Ich werde sowieso, guck mal, wenn wir da sehen, dann sehen wir, das sieht geil aus.
Musst du lachen.
Bisschen vielleicht, können wir den Sitz ein bisschen nach vorne oder? Ich glaube, die Kamera ist ein bisschen schief. Sekunde. So? Ja, verstehe ich. Ja, Dreier bitte die Okta. Dann Dreier die Okta schneller mit links. Also, One Take direkt. Ich würde jetzt direkt die nächste Aktion machen.
Mach noch eine bitte ohne rangehen.
Okay.
Nur aus der.
Ich würde jetzt einmal nochmal mit Zufahrt, weil wir die Tür ein bisschen verschoben haben. Okay, einmal nochmal bitte. Kamera läuft und Action. Das ist auch geil, wenn man Close-Up davon vielleicht mitmacht. Ja, sowas brauchen wir auf jeden Fall. Leute, wieso machen? Bitte. Ja, aber warum mitten im Drehen? Ja, weil ich am Drehen bin, weil wir zeitlich.
So anstrengend.
Ja, dann mach nicht die Sachen bitte, die, wenn ich nicht sage. Mitten im Dreh. Mitten, wenn die Kamera läuft.
Das war ein Fehler.
So, Achtung, Kamera läuft und bitte. Ja, Achtung, Kamera läuft und bitte. Nein, aber das wird so zack, schnell.
Hast super gemacht, Raoul.
Danke.
Guck.
Ich hab auch
Ja, aber
einen
guck in Slow-Mo.
Nein, ich finde, du hast ein Talent.
Knack.
Ich finde, Raoul hat ein Talent, wenn er das macht. So.
Nein.
Das kam woanders, ja.
Okay, ich mache mal eine kleine Bewegung noch. Und bitte. Siehst du, das ist schon jetzt schwer zu treffen, wo er schreibt.
Now we come to one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. In the next scene, we see Jürgen in Frankfurt, the financial capital of Germany, in front of the opera house. He's going straight to the newspaper stand and picks up a newspaper to read the headline. We see the headline showing the bad events that happened recently in Germany. The reality hits hard. A small detail that most people are not aware of. There's a close-up of the opera. We see the inscription on the frieze. It says the true, the beautiful, the good, which was taken from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's poem. Built in 1880, the opera was a symbol for high art, embodying Enlightenment values of truth, beauty, and goodness. Originally, Plato discussed these ideas, how truth, the knowledge of reality, beauty, harmony and proportion, and goodness, the moral excellence, reflect higher ideals the soul strives toward. And Goethe used this phrase in his poem Epilogue to Schiller's Song of the Bell, which he composed in 1805. This work was created as a tribute and memorial to his close friend and collaborator Friedrich Schiller, who had died on May 9 in 1805. In the context of the epilogue, Goethe reflects on Schiller's life, legacy, and spiritual ascent. The relevant lines describe Schiller's spirit advancing powerfully into the internal realm of the true, the good, and the beautiful, while leaving behind the mundane and commonplace aspects of earthly existence. Ironically, what was also originally a tribute to someone who had died and a call to spiritual ascent in another realm, which is not part of earthly existence, became, out of context, an ideal for earthly existence itself. A false ideal that created the exact opposite. For me, this scene is very important because it embodies the history of past German genius in poetry. The poets and thinkers. The current reality of what is happening, while at the same time a tribute is also served. Its appearance in the film serves a devastating rhetorical function. The film argues this was always an illusion. By placing the scene after the newspaper headline showing Germany's decline, the juxtaposition screams, you inscribe these words in stone, look at the reality you built. Why they cannot coexist. Truth versus beauty. Truth is often ugly. The reality shows ugly truths. The opera house shows beautiful lies. There's truth versus good. Sometimes the truth destroys the good. Knowing certain facts can be harmful. Some truths shouldn't be spoken. And then there's beauty versus good. Beauty can be actually evil. Propaganda often sounds beautiful. And then there's good versus beauty. Doing good is often not beautiful. It's messy, it's compromised, and ugly in the process. And the scene alone ensamples the German tragedy. Germany built temples to ideals it could never embody. The opera house inscription is a monument to aspiration that became self-delusion. This is the same pattern as the script's accusation. We flee into ideals, we ignore the essential. The monologue says it directly, but the images said it first. The opera house is the illusion. The newspapers mirror the essential reality. The film puts it in sequence to force collision. German philosophy spent centuries trying to unify truth, beauty, and goodness through systems. The 20th century proved it doesn't work. The film says, stop worshipping the inscription. Look at what's happening. The ideals failed. Now what? You cannot hold onto false ideals if you want to progress.
So vor allem jetzt in 5 Minuten ist auch kein Regen mehr. Schau mal, wir haben hier eine Opener, komplett totale.
Ja.
Er steht schon an der Zeitungsstand. Kommst du kurz mit? So stehen. So, und dann wollte ich eine komplette totale, sodass man hier die Hochhäuser und so weiter sieht. Und dann einmal wie jetzt liest.
Wie er liest, wie er es rausnimmt und von hinten und dann für später
einmal von vorne. Genau. Wir haben Frankfurter Allgemeine und wir haben hier noch die Volt.
Ah, die Volt, ja.
Die Volt. So, ja.
Wer kennt sie nicht?
Genau.
Wer kennt sie nicht? Ansonsten herzlich willkommen zu Tag 2. Es geht runter und drüber. Es regnet, schlecht durch die Rechnung gemacht, so wie es immer ist.
Und dann machen wir richtige Totale und dann gehen wir noch closer.
Nur Strickjacke oder mit der Jacke?
Nee, mit der Jacke. Die Jacke sieht super aus.
Dann schnappen wir diese Bildzeitung und gucken auf die Schlagzeile oder was?
Genau. Kamera läuft, passt und bitte.
Ich nehme die einfach und lauf weg, oder was?
Genau.
Soll ich sie jetzt schon nehmen oder
Ja.
Du nimmst sie und gehst dann so, wie du gerade zurückgelaufen bist. Einfach raus.
Aber vorwärts.
Ja,
Gesicht
vorwärts.
zu euch.
Nee,
Ja,
vorwärts,
jetzt.
vorwärts.
Ja, Gesicht zu euch.
Ja.
Gesicht dann zu euch.
Ja.
Ich schaue in die Zeitung rein?
Nee,
Nee.
Das andere
Ich nehme die einfach und lauf weg, oder was?
genau. Du nimmst sie einfach.
falsch.
Gib mal her.
Ja.
Gib mal her. So,
Ja.
so. Und warte, ich mache mal kurz vor. So. Und dann läuft es so. Ja. Linke Hand.
Achtung. So, Sekunde, Kamera läuft. Und noch einmal.
Ich bin ein Freund von Handheld. Daniel nicht so.
Ich bin Fan von Handheld, weil das authentischer wird.
Du bist drin im Geschehen.
Genau.
Fix hat auch so definitiv seinen Platz.
Okay.
Das ist geil.
100%.
Aber damit du in diesen Moment reingezogen wirst, eine so eine Szene, wo du ihm folgst über die Schulter.
Ja. Machen wir noch einmal.
Now we see the villa in the forest. The mental structure of comfort. Past success. You need to leave this place to evolve. We see the car driving away. Now he's moving. The car cutting through curves. Forest on both sides. Trees so thick the light comes through in fragments. The road doesn't straighten, it winds. This is the journey beginning. Agency reclaimed, no longer watching, but moving. The forest represents the unconscious. The curvy road means constant adjustment, no straight path. The landscape is vast, context beyond the villa's walls. He's no longer watching. He's in motion, but the destination is invisible. This is the journey itself, direction unclear, but movement has begun. And the voiceover uncovers another layer. Every behavior serves a hidden goal. It's a style of life. You are exactly where you deserve to be. This is Alfred Adler's concept that we construct our reality to match our self-concept. If the recipient is struck in a mental construct, the villa, it's because that prison serves their fictional final goal of avoiding something worse. And this is also amor fati, love of fate. But in this case, it's weaponized. Nietzsche would say, if you're stuck, it's because you choose stuckness. Every moment of inaction was a choice. Own it. And the compensation question, what inferiority feeling is being compensated for? The voiceover suggests the recipient has built a fortress of security to avoid the terror of genuine uncertainty. Their competence in one domain, the past power, compensates for their felt inadequacy in another, the future navigation. By avoiding this feeling, you're judging the action, the events behind it. But the voiceover is reminding you that it is within our choice how we see and value events in our life and what meaning we assign to them. And it can either destroy you or empower you. This choice, but you have to make a deliberate choice. During the drive scenes, we have the shadow confrontation. Fleeing into illusion ignores the essential: sadness, guilt, and fear of reality. This is a direct call to shadow integration. Carl Jung would say the text is demanding individuation, the conscious integration of repressed aspects of the psyche. The illusions are the person, the mask worn for the world, and the essential, grief, guilt, fear, is the shadow content being avoided. The illusions are the persona, the mask worn for the world, and the essential, the grief, the guilt, the fear, is the shadow content being avoided.
Geht aus dem Schloss raus. Nicht für am Ende, zeigen wir das nicht?
Nee, wir zeigen, wie er vor dem Schloss steht,
Okay,
aber in seinem anderen Outfit.
okay, gut. Legere Sachen, so.
Also leger.
Ja.
Dabei.
Ja, das ist doch perfekt.
Du kannst es anziehen.
Ja, super, das ist doch ein Cardigan.
Ja, wir haben halt einfach kommen wir an und dann ist halt ein riesen... Hi, Eddie, freut mich. Entschuldigung.
Habt ihr einen Kleiderständer?
Ja, das war das Auto, was wir wollten von Anfang an.
Ich würde mit den Drohnen anfangen.
Ja.
Montieren wir an unserem Wagen. Das ist ein Autofahrtsystem, also so Kamerasystem an unserem Wagen. Und da müssen wir halt parallel fahren. Wir werden aus unserem Wagen eine Funkanlage bei ihm und werden sagen, ein bisschen näher kommen, ein bisschen zurückfahren. So.
Ja.
Und dann montieren wir aber unser Kamerasystem an einem Wagen dran und filmen das Gesicht und so weiter, Emotionen.
Ja.
Dann steige ich ein und filme von hinten Details.
Okay.
So, für den Anfang.
Got it, ja.
Sonne nutzen.
Ja, dann das
Nenn nicht das in. Verstehst du? Weil das.
Seine Welt.
Ja, okay.
Seine Welt.
Wir fahren jetzt ohne Make-up, weil wir Drohne sowieso. Du fährst diese Sempatinstraße, Petersberg,
Wieder runter, wo
bis
wir
nach
hergekommen sind, ne?
unten, da wieder drehen und wieder hochfahren.
Okay.
Das reicht mir.
Also einmal runter und wieder hier hoch.
Genau.
Gut.
Das wird so knacken gegen den Boden. Das muss hier dran geschraubt werden.
Siehst
Das, ja. Das ist doppelte Safety. Okay, das stimmt. Landschaft, ja. So, jetzt kannst du gerne ein paar Mimiken machen. Kamera ist an. Ich kann es so. Kannst du Fotos abmachen?
Wir müssen noch näher dran.
Ja. Fokus. Ja, du musst doppelt so eine.
Die Kamera nach vorne, ja?
Ja.
Also, die muss wahrscheinlich sogar hier sein.
Yeah. Now we get to the top of the mountain. Clarity through direction. The text asks directly, who do you want to be? I wanted to make Alfred Adler's teleology explicit. The fictional final goal is being exposed. What is the recipient's private logic? What purpose does their current stuckness serve? The following scenes are about the new goal, the new potential, getting clarity. The sun sets, the day is over, and finally you see the true and the beautiful. But it's not good right now. This is Kantian architecture based on Immanuel Kant. Seek the truth, avoid the illusion, the phenomena. The distinction between phenomena, the appearance, and noumena, the thing in itself. Immanuel Kant would read this as a demand for transcendental self-examination. Are you acting from duty or inclination? Responsibility is duty, not luxury. This is a categorical imperative. Act only according to the maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Responsibility isn't optional. It's the very condition of moral agency. The script suggests that moral action flows from identity, not just rational deliberation. The text reminds its recipient of treating duty as conditional, of seeking the comfortable path when the categorical imperative demands unconditional commitment to principle. It's the entrepreneurial will to power. Do you have the courage for ideas without certainty, but which carry existential meaning? While we see the old logo being removed and the new one being applied, the rebranding could fail. People might not recognize the progress. Still, as an entrepreneur, you have to see a better future and do everything in your power to make it happen, to become a creator. And here the script goes absolute Nietzsche, the demand to create values in the absence of cosmic guarantees. Nietzsche despised those who needed certainty before acting. His Übermensch acts despite uncertainty. And we see Jürgen taking the step into uncertainty. New company, new technologies, new employees. A new direction toward building a better future. Living by example. Applied principles. And that applies not only to Jürgen, but to every individual and every nation. To everyone who is part of the human experience. The inner transformation made visible. The old self-image, the manifestation of the old self-image, literally peeled off the wall. In psycho-cybernetics, Maxwell Miles demonstrated that we cannot outperform our self-image. Change the image and change the behavior. These scenes show that change made physical. The old identity dies. The new identity takes its place.
Das Voice-Over ist ja easy. Traumhaft. Wenn hier jetzt noch Sonne gewesen wäre, dann kann es ja echt schön sein.
Im Gesicht im Schatten. Kannst du von da kommen und von tiefer? Ja, weiter. Das
Schon nicht schlecht, aber ich glaube, geht besser.
So, wie gesagt, wir ersetzen auch den Himmel, dann wird das so orange alles sein. Cut.
After this, we see a flashback of all the scenes we previously saw. Back to the villa, the mental construct, the place of the old identity. And then the TV gets destroyed. Not the clown, but the channel through which the clown speaks. This is what happens to those who show the puppeteers their pathetic attempts at control. Not physical destruction, channel destruction. The message too dangerous to play. But destroying the clown means silencing the only voice that could challenge the king without punishment. What happens when you kill your inner critic through rationalization and don't act in a new way? You stay the same. You understand everything, but your life doesn't change. Your identity remains the same. But watch what happens next. The letter still reaches the grave, through someone else's hands, in someone else's voice, to a dead man who cannot reject it. The channel is destroyed, the message survives. Now at the end we see Jürgen Höller as a protagonist arriving at the grave. The whole journey that began at the start of the film is actually the end. We see him deliver a letter he might have written to Helmut Schmidt. We see the name for the first time, the recipient, a tribute. But how can a dead man receive a letter? So it's an act of respect. But also knowing that a dead man cannot read the letter. In the end, who will be the true recipient of the letter? The letter is there for everyone to take. But also the very simple act of writing the letter is the manifestation itself. It's Viktor Frankl's final position. Saying yes to life in spite of everything. The film ends with a question, not an answer. When the loop resets with your grave, what will the encryption read? This is tragic optimism. The loop will reset. The grave will come. The question remains. Will you say yes anyway? Will you act as if meaning matters, even knowing the end? The letter delivered. The cycle complete. This is reflection, integration and loop reset. The message delivered, the old father figure honored but surpassed. Closure that creates opening. The cycle can begin again.
Ja, also wir haben alle diesen ganzen Block. Ne?
Ja.
Ganz.
Also, ich stehe hier.
Ja, wir sehen dich.
Von wo nimmst du auf?
Von da.
Okay.
Genau. Hier einfach Blumenstrauß ablegen.
Also man sieht mich gar nicht.
Nee, noch nicht. Nur deine Hand. Können wir vielleicht diesen Korb wegstellen ganz kurz?
Ja, sehr cool.
Ich würde jetzt eine Perspektive noch ein bisschen abändern. Einmal von hier. Jungs, Kamera bitte.
Now, regarding the soundtrack, I knew there was no stock or anything fitting for this. We needed to create it, and thankfully Daniel Slotin, the director of the movie, knew a very talented composer who could make my ideas and the soundtrack I had in my mind a reality. I'm always a fan of recreating with instruments certain sounds of frequencies that occur in real life. A sound of a shovel digging up earth, digging up a grave and closing a grave. That is what we did, and this is what you hear at the beginning.
One of the first things that I received from Raoul was to think something about shovel sound. So actually I used this all these are like stereo sounds of shovel to make the interesting psychological effect, sound effect. To create this kind of mix between these interesting emotions, I used a lot of really dark strings.
I also wanted a soundtrack with a double climax. If you hear the movie, you see there are 2 climaxes. Why? Because it resembles the learning curve. The message behind this is Nietzsche's eternal recurrence encoded in sounds. Nietzsche asked, would you live this exact life with all its suffering, infinite times? The soundtrack answers, as a civilization, you will. The pattern repeats. The grave is just a reset point. The music builds like a learning curve. Gentle entry, first dissonance, building complexity, then resolution, collapse, lowest point, then electric guitar enters. The climax builds, full orchestration, return to shovel sound. The electric guitar is also crucial. It's modern, but it's already old. Revolutionary in its time, but now almost a classic. Still relied upon. This is the dialectic of innovation. Every disruption becomes establishment. Every revolution becomes institution. The mixing of classical strings with electric guitar creates a temporal collusion, old and new forced into the same sonic space. Neither wins, but both persist.
Ignorieren das Wesentliche. Trauer, Schuld, Angst vor der Realität. Willst du Selbstverwirklichung? Dann stelle dir eine Frage. Wer willst du sein?
Of all innovation is eventually every disruption becomes establishment. Every revolution becomes institution. The electric guitar is the sound of this process. Once radical, now familiar. Still functional, but not transformative. The soundtrack begins with the sound of a shovel putting earth, but played by a cello and violin. It ends in the same way. A loop. Why it loops? Because the end is the beginning. There is no final mastery, only cycles. Death doesn't resolve tension. It transfers it to the next carrier. The message must be delivered again and again to each generation, each new identity of you. The beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. By framing the entire film as a visit to Schmidt's grave, the message is, the person you're now is already buried. The question is what rises from this grave. This is psycho-cybernetics inverted. Instead of visualizing success, you're forced to witness your funeral. What will be said? What legacy? The self-image collision is total. Alfred Adler said we are pulled by the future, not pushed by the past. The grave is the ultimate fictional final goal. Made concrete, actually. The film shows you where your current trajectory leads, and then asks if you accept that destination. The question it leaves. The film is a closed causal loop. A message sent from the grave to prevent the need for the grave. But since the message exists, the grave exists. The paradox is unresolvable. The only choice is change the content of the loop. Become someone different so that when the cycle repeats, it repeats differently. When it comes to meaning for marketers, here's an important lesson. As a marketer, you don't transmit only your worldview. You transmit the future selves of the brand, the architecture. You see potential in someone that they haven't embodied yet. You create a message that represents that potential realized. They deliver the message. By delivering it, they become it. Others observe and begin to embody it as well. Höller didn't only deliver my own worldview. He delivered his own future self. I just saw it before he did, and built the vehicle for him to step into it. As a marketer, you execute psycho-cybernetics at population scale. Maltz said you cannot outperform your self-image. As marketers, we create self-images for others to step into. The messenger performs their potential and becomes their potential. The observer witnesses someone being, begins becoming themselves. The clown's knife, it's not a threat, it's not cutting. It's a potential we see as a marketer. We hold it up. We show them, this is what you should be. This is what you are not yet. Look, the showing creates the becoming. As a great marketer, this is your function. You see futures. You build vehicles for those futures to be performed. The performance makes them real. The observation spreads them. And this ties into Viktor Frankl. He wrote, "For the meaning of life differs from man to man, from day to day, and from hour to hour. What matters, therefore, is not the meaning of life in general, but rather the specific meaning of a person's life." This is your function. You don't see universal potential. You see specific potential. This person, this brand, this moment. The future that is trying to emerge through them. You don't give them generic meaning. You show them their specific meaning, the one that only they can fulfill in this moment, in this life. That's why the transformation works. Not because you impose your meaning, because you reveal theirs. Now, if you stayed so long here, thanks for watching so far. That was the first video. Now, the second trailer was more funny, had more self-humor, not taking himself too seriously. And it doesn't actually need a lot of explanation. So like the following scenes are just the behind the scenes of the actual trailer. And in the trailer itself, Jürgen and I were throwing jokes at each other in front of the camera and also behind the camera, what you see in a couple of seconds. There's no need for commentary, so I will leave it with you. I really enjoyed this creation process, which is more than 1.5 years ago. It was in September 2024. It was a lot of fun. It was really great to work with Jürgen. I thank him for the trust and the complete freedom to deliver what we delivered. In total, we generated more than 3.6 million views and doubled revenue with 8-figure growth. I can recommend him for the German-speaking audience in every way. He also recently just launched a new book, which I have here. We will also put the link in the description where you can buy the book. If you're from Germany and want to read it, it's a great book. On the other hand, if you want to work with us, if we should train your team, if we should consult you, if you want to implement what you've learned, or if you're at the stage of high 7 figures or low 8 figures and you want to grow, then go to marketingmba.com or marketing.mba. Choose whatever fits and contact us. We're building the best marketing community in the world. Fill out the form, pick a time slot, and let's talk and assess if and how we can help you. I really want to thank you for watching. This is not like the typical marketing content. If you liked this video, leave a thumbs up, write a comment and subscribe to the channel. More to come. And see you very soon in the next video. Now back to the remaining video of the making of.
Die Scheiße soll ich machen, oder?
Ja.
Der ist doch ganz knusprig. Der ist da oben drauf, der ist nicht frisch, da gar nichts.
Nee, der ist nicht. Aber warte mal ganz kurz, bevor du denkst, wir müssen doch erstmal sichern.
Ich kriege das ja gar nicht mit. Weißt du, ich kriege ja nur mit, wir sind irgendwo in einem aber wie er das mit dem Licht dann macht und wie er das dann so, ich habe noch nicht so viel gesehen, aber schon geil. Kann schon was. Weißt du, ich sitze irgendwo im Sessel in so einem alten Gebäude und denke mir, naja, so, weißt du, und dann siehst du, wie das dann wirkt auf der Filmaufnahme. Wahnsinn.
Es endet hier. Hier wird der Wagen überschlagen und das explodiert. Du fährst durch das Feuer, auf einmal steht der Wagen geparkt. Er fährt drauf, überschlägt sich, fliegst runter, rollst dich ab, stehst auf und fängst an und erzählst in die Kamera. Im Hintergrund brennt Auto, du redest einfach in die Kamera. Raoul, sitzt hier auf dem Regiestuhl, sagt Cut, Cut, Cut und dann kommt der ganze Dialog.
Und dann sagst du jetzt auch, Raul, mir reizt jetzt, ich fühle das Gefühl einfach nicht. So wie du es mir letztens auch gesagt hast.
Mhm.
Ne?
Ja.
Das wacht der Stuntman, nicht Stuntman, sondern Pyrotechniker auf und drücke auf den Buzzer und das explodiert.
Das war noch eine geile Last-Minute-Idee, ey. Ja, das ist lustig.
Aber das ist aber dieser Film, wo du von Deadpool mit, wie heißt der, Wolverine, oder? Ja. Das ist im Prinzip da kam dir die Idee damals, oder?
Ja. Also von der Art.
Ja, ist geil. Ja, ist geil.
Ich liebe das.
Ja, ist doch geil. Vor allen Dingen, ich nehme mich ja selber auf die Schippe dabei. Ist ja das Beste, was passieren kann. Dann diese Action-Szene am Anfang, finde die Leute also die werden gar nicht wissen, was los ist. Den verstehe ich, der wird auch richtig geil, den anderen verstehe ich noch nicht.
2 verschiedene Kampagnen oder wird das parallel geschaltet?
Das ist eine Kampagne. Also die werden nicht parallel. Ich will den hier, den wir jetzt als zweites drehen, den will ich als erstes machen. Und quasi als Pre-Launch-Trailer.
Verstehe.
Und halt der zweite ist dann halt komplett unexpected mit einer 180-Grad-Message.
Dieses Ich fühl's nicht, ne? Wie soll ich in welcher Form soll ich das sagen? Eher resigniert oder eher laut oder eher so ein bisschen aus der Haut oder irgendwie so ein bisschen emotional?
So wie du beim Workshop einmal ausgerastet bist.
Also schon emotional?
Ja,
okay.
Emotional. Ja, genau. Ja.
Genauso würde ich eigentlich gerne ausgerastet werden, so magst.
Ja, genau so.
Und du bist ja da, ich sehe dich, ja, das ist ja ganz einfach, ich sehe ja dein Gesicht.
Genau. Als ich das geschrieben habe, habe ich mir überlegt, so, was ist das richtige Wort? Dann bin ich in WhatsApp reingegangen, habe mir eine der Voice Messages angehört, aber mir reicht sie. Also perfekt. Muss mir gar nichts mehr ausdenken.
Also
du nur langsam fahren.
Du machst das erstmal einmal vor, du gehst erstmal als erstes drauf.
Ich habe da gar kein Problem.
Ja, dann machst du es erstmal vor. Ich will dann sehen, wie das ist, dann mache ich es auch. Geht's weiter?
Ja, genau.
Also. Leute, Motivation kommt von Machen und wenn du auch ein Macher bist, so wie ich, dann kommst du zu Europas, ich würde sagen Deutschlands, ich würde sagen Frankens erfolgreichsten Motivationstrainer.
Schweinfurz.
Schwebheim.
Okay, Jürgen findet schon mal witzig. Das ist ja nicht schlecht.
Das ist doch der Anfang.
Ja gut, es kommt auf dich auch viel an, wie du das magst. Weil du musst ja diesen Part dann auch im Prinzip so dieses ey, großartig, toll, Jürgen, das war wirklich super. Also man muss schon auf die Kacke hauen, weil dann muss ja der Kontrast kommen, beißt den Burger rein, guckst gelangweilt, ja Jürgen, alles war super, beißt wieder einen Burger rein. Ja? Kannst du das?
Kannst du lustig sein.
Kann ich gelangweilt gucken.
Das kannst du.
Noch nicht?
Okay, Kamera läuft.
Herr Biker, wo haben Sie die Chips begraben? Warum sind da Rückstände in Ihren Fingern? Sie sind unter dem linken Fingernagel Salz.
Weil ich fett bin.
Ja, so möchte ich auch. Ja.
Ich hätte jetzt ehrlich gesagt ein bisschen mehr erwartet, aber
Na.
für 200 € Produktion ist das schon
Ja, okay.
Das ist geil, ne?
es ist ultra. Also das ist ein cooler Shit.
Machen wir mit Anbinden ihn auch?
Nö, brauchst du nicht.
Bevor die losfahren, sollen wir nach seinem PayPal-Passwort fragen? Für den Fall.
Das ist eine gute Idee.
Ja,
Wer den Pfennig nicht ehrt, ist das Geld nicht wert.
100%.
Ich sag dir ehrlich, ich hätte mich nicht mal festhalten
Mit einem
lassen.
Bein hier so ein bisschen festklemmst.
Jürgen, ehrlich, ich würde dir das nicht sagen.
Auf welcher Seite? Wäre rückwärts hier, ne? Oder?
Eigentlich dreht er nur langsam.
Der sagt genau dasselbe. Fertig.
Also 2 Millionen habe ich Versicherung, aber ich glaube, es reicht nicht.
Hast du dich ja verletzt?
Schlüsselbein.
Ah, du?
Also wir haben einen Stand, der...
Okay, jetzt habe ich noch mehr Vertrauen.
Wenn Jürgen kommt, bist du vom Produktionsteam. Nicht von dir.
Das ist euch noch nie passiert vorher. Also nach diesem Gespräch bin ich froh, wenn es vorbei ist.
Ja. Guck mal, falls das passiert, vorne links ist Notausgang.
Von
Wir rennen dann so,
Fluchtwege.
ja.
Falls das
Fluchtwege.
passiert, einfach wegrennen.
Da kommt ein Auto und machst du die Bewegung, als ob du springen würdest. Das war's.
Okay.
Also, nicht loslassen, aber so...
Nicht loslassen, halt dich wirklich gut fest, sehr gut festhalten.
Okay. Aber wie gesagt, wir fahren sehr, sehr langsam. Gott sei Dank nicht bei uns am Dreh, aber ein Stuntman, mit dem ich immer gearbeitet habe, ist gestorben beim Überschlag.
Echt?
Scheiße.
Wir machen keinen Überschlag, oder? Ja? Wir machen keinen Überschlag heute, oder?
Ich kann das alles nicht mehr. Nachdem ich diese Videos gerade gesehen habe auf dem Handy, will ich nichts anderes mehr sehen.
Das sah cool aus. Ja, wirklich, das sah richtig geil aus auf dem Handy, bis ich dann erfahren habe, was alles passieren kann.
Ja.
Dann war es nicht mehr cool.
Guck mal, das ist das Ding. Man fällt dann in so eine Rabbit Hole, du kommst da auch nicht raus.
Überhaupt nicht.
Jetzt fokussierst du dich nur noch auf diese Themen. Aber es kann auch gut gehen.
Skypanel steht hier schon, habe ich gesehen.
Fuß steif lassen.
Und hier schaue ich rein, ne?
So, genau.
Ey, Daniel, hier schaue ich rein.
Nach vorne schauen, nach vorne schauen. Du bist geradeaus, du bist nicht mehr.
Scheiße.
Ja, so. Okay, Kamera läuft. Fahren bitte. Fahren. Und noch einmal das gleiche. Super.
Das ist ein epileptischer Anfall oder ein Akt im Bett war. Aber nicht auf dem Dach.
Es war ein Akt auf dem Dach. Anstrengend?
Ja, aber noch mal kurz schauen bitte.
Alles geplant. Keine Zufälle.
Wir arbeiten nur mit Marken, mit denen wir gearbeitet haben.
Konsistenz.
Also lass den weiterarbeiten, er ist der Regisseur, wenn ich hier Überschläge gemacht habe, durchs Feuer gefahren bin, Drehungen, Stuntsprünge, ins Nichts, aber er arbeitet hart.
Guck mal, das hat mir jemand bei Instagram mal geschickt. That's the end, I promise. Ich sende mir die ganze Zeit Memes. Was hast du gesagt?
Okay.
Braucht ihr den noch?
War schon nicht schlecht. Schön.
Deswegen Kinder immer anschnallen.
Und dass der sich dann so hinstellt irgendwie so und dann halt so voll Muskeln anspannt und zittert. Und dann irgendwann kann er nicht mehr. Haben wir eine Matte oder so, wo der rauf kann?
Der fällt auf den
Die Einstellung mal.
Wo ist denn der Mikrofonmann?
Okay, meine Kamera läuft. Warte, Ruhe bitte!
Macher bist, dann kommst du zu mir, Jürgen Höller. Denn ich, Jürgen Höller, bin Europas Motivations- und Erfolgstrainer Nummer 1.
Cut. Test.
Motivation kommt vom Machen. Und wenn du auch ein Macher bist, dann kommst du zu mir. Ich bin Jürgen Höller, Europas Motivation- und Erfolgstrainer Nummer 1.
Cut! Weil du hast gerade ein Skript gesprochen, worauf du gar keinen Bock hast. Das hast du hast am Ende fast gemacht, deswegen kam mir gerade die Idee.
Genervt beim Cut? Genervt beim Cut oder was?
Ja, also wenn es vorbei ist, weil dann merkst du so, oh Gott, das war scheiße eigentlich.
Also wenn ich mit dem Text fertig bin, dann entgleisende Gesichtszüge.
Genau, wie bei Du kleiner Bastard.
Da unten schauen, zu ihm schauen. Kleiner Bastard. Aber ich würde jetzt alle, wenn da super hell ist, alle von Jürgen.
Ja, das will ich auch machen. Will ich jetzt auch machen. Ja.
Genau.
Erstmal Jürgen.
Das
Und dann,
ist, genau,
dann bin ich zum Schluss,
rein.
zum Schluss bin ich gar nicht allein. Jetzt geht's weiter. Jetzt sehe ich die ganzen Experten auf.
Reinstecken. Nein.
Ja.
Ja?
Emre. Reinstecken.
Okay, nochmal. Letzte Szene, Position. Take 963.
Nein, Raoul, ich bin doch so viel mehr als nur Motivation und Chaka-Chaka.
Super klasse.
Cut. Wir machen das in der Post. Den Satz nochmal. Aber das würde ich hier.
Aber das willst du jetzt schon direkt mit
Ja, natürlich.
Okay, nochmal. Letzte Szene. Take 963. Alle in Position. Ich bin so viel mehr.
Super. Danke. Perfekt. So.
Ich denke, das passiert, wenn ein Motivationsseminar von einem Michael Bay-Film ein Kind bekommt. Anyway, ein Traum.
Hast du es wirklich?
Ja, ich meine, du hast dich heute umgehauen, du hast alle motiviert, alles brennt. Okay, letzte Szene nochmal. Take 963. Bitte von Anfang, alle.
Boah, ist ja gut. So, jetzt beende. Kannst du mir Bilder geben?
Boah, warte,
Hey.
wow.
Danke. Also ich würde hier anlehnen, dass die Kamera hochgeht. Ja, okay, das ist geil. Lass mich hinsetzen, so wie ich schlafen würde. Okay, können wir vielleicht ein paar Leute nochmal hinstellen? Wer war im Hintergrund?
Einer, der so mit Stativ rumläuft und so.
Ja, kannst du? Hier auf dem Monitor, ja? Ja.
Und noch Kippe im Mund dabei haben.
Ne.
Ja, doch mal, was ist das nicht?
Doch.
Bruder, mit Kippe.
Ja.
Wie richtig asozialer, wie es heute ist.
Aber mach mal von Catering, dass du von Catering das holst.
Guck. Wo hast du den her?
Kennst du Luca? Kann ich nicht.
Geht's schon los? Kollege, nimm mal hier. Ich hab die halbe Flasche leer gemacht. Ich glaube, irgendwann wird du besser, glaube ich.
Warte, kann man da raus?
Luca öfters mitnehmen zum Drehen.
Feuer frei!
Wieder 20 Überstunden. Spaß. Nein, super Drehtag, super geile Fahrt. Da ist ein Putzwagen. Hollywood, was wir heute gedreht haben, richtig krass. Danke nochmal an Raoul, danke nochmal an Jürgen.